Peace and Black Power family. This is your host, Raheem Shabazz, and I am here for another episode of Necessary Blackness podcast. And today we have a special guest. I am joined by my lovely co-host, Marcy Lee. And today we have a conversation that's going to be a very spirited conversation. Our guest is no other than Nwasha and Montsho. And Nwasha and Montsho, they specialize in culturally based counseling for couples as well as singles. So if you're a couple or you're single, you might want to tune in. And they guide couples and singles through what we like to call the sacred science of SoulMating. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the cultural alternative to Valentine's Day and what they have started and how it's being celebrated in 14 countries. So to my guests, I welcome you with open arms to our Necessary Blackness podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. So a lot of people might not be familiar with counseling for couples in terms of from an Afrocentric perspective. Most people go to counseling and therapy because there's problems in the relationship. But the counseling that you give, it don't always have to be problems in the relationship.
Absolutely.
It can enhance the relationship. So I want to get into that and some other things. But my first question to you guys is, we living in a world of social media. And with the advent of social media, we see a lot of things play out in social media. I want you to let me know, how has social media affected Black revolutionary love?
Excellent question.
Well, I'm going to say I'll start with the beginning. I think that social media, a lot of people are pretending, unfortunately. So that's something that's a little bit different from when you actually met someone and could see them in their environment for real, and then decide to date them. So I think that social media in the beginning of love affects the mask or the persona that someone is able to portray for a very long time. Even if you watch an account or interact with someone for a year or 2 years, you really can date long distance. You can only kind of date online and text and talk on the phone. You don't get a chance to really see that person in their environment. And when it comes to revolutionary love, there are a lot of people in this age, even outside of love, that are saying that they're doing things that they're not doing, or saying that they have standards or beliefs or values that they don't necessarily embody. So I think that when you're meeting someone, you have to know how to vet them to see if they're really what they say they are about and how that is practical. Because a lot of times, revolutionary love, you might be saying something, you might know how to write a great post, and a quick 2-minute video.
Give us an example of something that someone wouldn't embody, like that you're perpetrating a fraud. Is that what you're trying to say?
Basically. So, I mean, if you think someone is about culture, but they're just repurposing memes, right? Or if you think someone is honest or has a plan or is about legacy, but they are, squandering their life away, or they, maybe they're holding up the chlorophyll water in the posts, but they just stay drinking Hennessy all the time. So you would have to know that, you know what I mean? But a lot of times what we have on social media is a curated character. And everybody does it, even the most genuine of us, we're not posting our worst moments online for people to critique. So I think that that's something that we have to understand, is that we don't post 100% of everything in our curated social media personas, and neither does another person. But the pretending that happens regularly in the beginning, in the courting phase, is liable to be turned up a notch or two when you're meeting each other online. But that's the key.
Do you think that it makes it harder to get to know someone when, they're not being as authentic?
I do not.
I was going to say no. If you know the right things to ask, that really equals getting to know someone. Not just like texting 20 times a day or watching their videos and hitting like. is not getting to know someone. So I think if you know what it means to get to know someone, you can still do that long distance. You can still do that on social media, and you should, because you can open up who you can date. If you use social media in the right way, you can you can meet someone in a whole other country that you wouldn't have met, you know what I mean, without that opportunity. But you have to be intentional about getting to know a person, and don't think that just frequency is actual depth at all.
My answer to that question, my sister and my brother, is unconventional. I don't think that social media has changed much of anything. I'm from the era where it's a 10-5 and 85% and everything. I think that social media is just a microscope. When you put something under a microscope, you don't change it. It just is what it is. You see it from a different angle, or you see it from a different vantage point, or with a specificity on a certain part, right? We're trying to act like, as a people who have been on a major decline in the Black family long before social media came around, that social media has done something to our relationships. Our relationships been sucking long before there was a social media. And so what has happened is there's been a steady decline that social media documents. It's like turning on the tape recorder or the video camera, but social media is not the cause of our ills. It's just documenting the ills. The cause of our ills is the lack of cultural understanding, the lack of purpose, the lack of family structure, because what happens is, it's like, we used to tell the children, or we used to tell people on the street, if somebody's watching you, that's the best opportunity for you to show and prove who you are. This is what with social media, 85% of the people is fake. And so now you're watching fake people. 10% of the people are manipulating. So now you're watching manipulation. 5% of the people are real. And now you're watching that. The problem is, what is also being highlighted is most of us can't tell the difference between the three. And so it seems like it's so confusing, and so you didn't know how to court or build a relationship when it was in the 80s. Now that we into 2020, you acting like social media did something to that process. You still don't know how to court. You didn't know how to court in the 90s. The same jumping around and jumping in. You can look at some of these kids that's older than social media, and their families are from the same hell that we're seeing right now. So we can't blame that on social media, because, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that, I know a lot of people don't say that, but I don't think social media has nothing at all to do with the decline of our family structure. Now, what I could say is that some people who were unexposed to certain stuff are now, the exposure is much quicker. It's much more readily accessible. So used to hear about stuff if you was in the street or in certain circles. Now you can see it because it's aired and stuff like that. But other than that, absolutely, social media has not done anything. I think that a lot of people use social media as a scapegoat for their inability to successfully navigate through relationships. And I just don't think, as a therapist, as a person who's been with my wife for 21 years, as a brother from a certain era, I don't think social media has anything to do with it.
Let me add that Montsho is not like dating online right now. I think that the dating has been the same, because people have consistent challenges. But the way that we use social media right now as a source to pick from, much like we might have used school, work, church before, we still don't have a good vetting system. But I will say that social media gives people a false sense of fellowship, a false sense of being just friendly and familiar, that you may not have done that in other areas. So I think that seeing someone all day, what they ate, what they're wearing, even when you are not interacting with them in real life, that is an element that is different from how we would have met people before. And I think it is something definitely for younger people who are growing up in this time, it's something to understand that watching somebody post a picture, seeing what they're having for breakfast, even seeing them sometimes in the shower and in the bath, that is a level of intimacy that you're peeking into that's still curated. It doesn't mean you know them really well because you watched them for 7 days a week. The same way that you don't know somebody just because you went to church with them or anything else.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
There's just this kind of like voyeurism that's out right now. So if you're caught up with that in a certain age range, especially when you can't compare it to anything, you will think that frequency actually is some substance, and it's not.
But I would just say, being of a certain age, people used to say, do you think that the Black church is destroying relationships? Back in the 70s. In the 80s, it was like, do you believe crack and AIDS is destroying relationships? In the 90s, it was, do you believe that hip hop music is destroying relationships? Now we in the 2000s and beyond, and we're saying, do you think that social media is destroying relationships? We keep trying to find a bandit. In the 80s, we were 60% unmated homes. 30 years later, we're only 10%. We're 70% unmated homes. Social media isn't even 20 years old. So the reason I'm saying that social media is not the culprit, I do agree with Nwasha that it highlights some things. And whether you was out in the clubs, whether you was whatever environment you was in, the problem is Black people do not apply a cultural understanding to mating. So they don't know how to mate if they in the church. They didn't know how to mate when they was in a nightclub. They didn't know how to mate in the 80s when they was getting money. They didn't know how to mate in the hip hop culture. So I can't take social media now because dating apps and all of that stuff was long before social media. And a lot of people saying, do you think that these social networks are destroying relationships? We keep trying to make a boogeyman. We don't want to accept the fact that you're not going to be successful as a Black person in relationships unless you're using your culture. That's just what it is. Because if we look at it, the further and further away that we get from culture, the worse and worse relationship gets.
So do you think that, like Nwasha was saying, you can meet someone from another country because of social media, because you have more options? Some people might argue that the reason why they're stating that is because now you have so many more options and so many things coming towards you. But I feel like you're almost saying that it's just enhancing the behavior you already had.
I'm absolutely saying that because in the 90s, I was approached by sisters from Kenya, and I know I'm in New Jersey. I know about 30 men and women who married people from other countries just to get $10,000, $15,000. And they had nothing to do with social media. Raheem, do you remember that era?
When I remember that.
That had nothing to do with social media.
Mail order, bro.
And that was you getting mail order brides and husbands from other countries. We didn't even have social media then. So I think that a lot of people keep saying this. It's a scapegoat. And the reason I believe they saying it, because a lot of people say this. Now, I will agree with both of you that a lot of people is talking this, right? When Black people start getting $1 million contracts, they start saying, do you think that's deteriorating the Black relationship? When Black women started going to work and making big money, they said, do you think that's deteriorating Black relationships? When there was a separation after the civil rights movement, we was in the church, people was like, do you think the Black church contributes to Black relationship? When hip hop blew up in the 90s, everybody's like, do you think the music is contributing to the decline of Black relationships? Now social media is the boogeyman. And what I'm saying to you is that's not true. It's not, because if social media only accounts for 10% of the decline, what about the other 90%? We only have moved, the needle has moved 10% in the negative since the 80s, right? So that means that something else is responsible. That's
what is that? Do you have a take on what that is?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What is that?
Yes.
There's always a lot of contributing factors to any situation because people are multidimensional. But I do think the primary issue is that we are viewing relationships through still a colonized lens.
Absolutely.
So we are looking at fairy tale syndrome, superhero syndrome, the inability to communicate. We're looking at, we don't have the rituals or the ceremonies. We don't have a rite of passage.
We don't have community around relationships.
How to actually have relationships. So I think the primary issue, which is why the theme for the year is how to decolonize your love. The primary issue is that we don't have a perspective of love that is original or autochthonous before colonization. We don't really have that. We don't have successful models from our parents and grandparents. And even if we had some success, there hasn't been a true healing for Black people in the diaspora.
That's right.
To be able to recover from what did happen. So if you know that you were purposely torn away from relationship, it's very difficult to just piece that back together on your own without help. And there really isn't a global conversation about that. We kind of just get like sidebars, like don't get pregnant, don't get anybody pregnant. If you do marry somebody, but you still don't have like a real rite of passage on how to make it work. So generation after generation, children are looking at poor examples or examples of people who don't love each other. And then like this last generation it's up in the air whether it's even important to come together for anything other than something materialistic or something physical.
All right, let me ask you a question, right? You said that you talked about decolonizing your love, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he said that there's 3 things that the open enemy is not going to teach you. That's the science of warfare, the science of mating, and the science of economics. So we know, they're not going to teach us the right way. And we know that being colonized, many of us follow their way, which is the wrong way. So I want to ask both of you, what did love look like before the Neanderthal, the troglodyte, the open enemy came upon our people and invaded the land?
That's an excellent question. I think the problem in the outstart, and I love that quote by Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we talk about it all the time. And we add diet in there as well, because when you lose the ability to have holistic health, you can't be sound. If you're not sound physically, you can't be sound emotionally. That's why they feed us garbage, blue juice, swine, all kind of stuff, right? But I think the operative words, so we say the art and science of Black love culture is what we teach. And in that definition, we define every word except for the and of, because we assume people know what those words mean. But when we talk about love and when we talk about culture, the main problem is when you say that to a group of people in the room, you get like deer in the headlights, because we don't have a working definition of what love is, and we certainly can't define culture. And so we say that love is a holistic and a perpetual consciousness characterized by an intense emotional affinity to unify and understand with complementary people, places, and things in a reciprocal exchange, in an equal reciprocal exchange of thought, speech, and action. And so love is a holistic consciousness. Some people, some Black people are running around here today saying that love has nothing to do with the emotional self. That's absurd. They say love is only to build wealth. That's a part of it, but we get so damaged in our psychology that we move from one pole to the other pole. Now, emotional have nothing to do with love. If you've ever been in love, you know how stupid that is. Now, we also understand that love is just not some wild emotion. It's a reciprocal consciousness. It has to be something that you are sharing mutually. Most people in relationships today, because we don't have community, right? It's so important to have community around relationships. So as a man moves from malehood, boyhood into manhood, he's got a group of men helping him do that. As a woman moves from femalehood, girlhood to womanhood, she's got a group of women helping her to do that. But as a couple moves from courting, mating, and into nationhood, they got a group of couples doing that. Without that, what happens is people believe that the whole 360 degrees of understanding of a relationship is about the two people. They don't see a purpose beyond their relationship outside of the two of them. Now, let me tell you what that looks like. People in relationships and they hide and shit. They trying to act like they not in relationships and everybody can see they are. People trying to, they just trying to test it out forever to see if it'll work before they will become responsible or commit. But I always say, if you could buy a house with one walkthrough, you got to get pre-qualified. It's a $250,000 to $300,000, 15-year to 30-year investment. One walkthrough after pre-qualification, maybe two, you bought it. Buying a car, same thing, $60,000 or beyond. 5-year commitment. You're going to get one, maybe two test drive, but you got to be pre-qualified. Go to college, military, anything in life. These are major commitments that you're saying, I'm throwing myself into this for the next 30 years. Now we get in a relationship, we dating somebody for 8 years. And then we like, yeah, he wasn't the one, she wasn't the one. Like, we don't know what we're doing. That don't have a damn thing to do with social media. What social media has done is made us look at it all. We're looking at it. Many of us have grown up in single parent homes long before social media, like 30 years, 20 years before social media. So what I'm saying is when you lose your culture, which is your group value system, your ability to have symbol creation, symbol recognition, emotional response, logic progression, formulaic presentation in your thought, speech, and action, in all 11 areas of human interaction, education, economics, entertainment, fashion, food, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. If you have a group doing that, then becoming in a relationship is just as easy as buying a car. It's just as easy as buying a house. It's just as easy as going to college. It's just as easy as those things. We do those things now easily because those are things that we partake in someone else's culture. Before we were colonized, we had those systems. You went into rites of passage at 13 years old. When you came out of that rites of passage, whether it was 3 to 7 years, you were now an adult. You were given a trade, given some land, given a mate. And you in that rites of passage, you began to learn that your relationships has a micro purpose, which is the character development for the two people. Then it has a macro purpose, how you're going to unify and serve the greater community. Now we walk around talking about, this ain't nobody business, what we doing.
That's what I'm going to hit on before you go too far, because when Nwasha was talking, she touched on it, and you've been touching on it. That's why I've been going back and forth in my head, because you were talking about relationships prior to colonization. And from my studies and also talking to people from Africa, I know that they study polygamy or they practice polygamy. How does that fit in? Is this what you're talking about? Is this a part of Akoma, or is this something that you all are trying to install, like create?
No, polygamy is like a byproduct of a situation. It's a reaction to a situation. So even in polygamy, in order for Dr. Africa would say, like he used to tell us, girls and boys are born at the same rate. When your society is dealing with the fact that men have died because of war, because of conflict, because of diet, that is part of the colonization. Polygamy didn't always exist. Right. And because people like to highlight things that suit their conversation. Exactly. So I'm not interested in a polygamous marriage, but the understanding that people would try to take care of their community when there's an absence of a father or a woman loses a husband, that is fellowship, that's community. I understand why that would be a solution to the problem, but it's similar to like how Dr. Frances Cress Welsing said, we are irresponsible right now, so we should delay having children until we're 32 and 34. Ideally, we want to be more responsible earlier. Not just say, hey, we're going to have a child at 40 now because I'm so irresponsible, or hey, we shouldn't start till we're 45. This is like a issue, like, going to the emergency room and really trying to have some wound care and something, that you're in a dire situation. So you have to have an extreme solution. But those are temporary things. So I think that when people, the primary thing about indigenous culture, because it's not even just Africa, we can't go to Africa today. They are dealing with the same colonization or a different colonization, right? So they are not free from colonization. But I'm saying that sometimes in the United States, we understand something different when we have been up against talking and living with white people. There are sometimes there's another level of colonization when they came and left their mark, but then they left that place, right? So sometimes people don't even realize that they are colonized. And what we talk about when we're talking about decolonizing is the fact that we're speaking English, the fact that we're speaking French, the fact that we're speaking Portuguese. And England and Portugal and Spanish and France are very teeny tiny countries, but they are in the top 11 languages of the world because of colonization. And when you can't think outside of an oppressive colonized language, you can't even understand what you would really get in your rite of passage. The rite of passage is indigenous culture. And if we were not being murdered, we would not, men and women would not.
There would be no need for polygamy.
Unequal.
Historically, currently, there are 11 countries in the world that practice polygamy legally, right, in the world. Historically, polygamy was created by Black women, and it was designed to adjust to the fact that we were losing Black men, right? Polygamy is multiple marriages. I find it interesting that the most unmarried group is fixated on polygamy. It's just like the social media question. You ain't married once, and you're talking about being married twice and 4 times and all of that. Then we have the reality that in the polygamous relationship, the woman chooses in the polyandry or polyandry, polygentry, where there's more than one husband. That's very rare. But in the polyandry, where the woman is she is actually choosing a sister that she can cooperatively work with to help raise the family. And that man has the added responsibility of that woman as a wife, but that's not what we focus on. We focus on the extra benefit that he receives sexually. That's all it's about. Because
can you get one marriage?
Because we're talking about polyamory, which is a glorified way of doing the same shit we was doing in the 70s. That's why most of us grew up in single parent homes. Because your dad was dipping or your mom was dipping or somebody was dipping. And because they thought it was more options, they didn't hold that responsibility. When you're talking about real African culture, and I think Raheem really brought it home when he was saying prior to this white man's rule, like Nwasha was saying, most people, the vibratory resonance of a language subscribes your thinking. Most people can't think outside of the white man because you can't speak a language that's outside of his control. So you think like him because you speak like him, and you dream. And when you dream, the white man controls your consciousness. When you actually see polygamy, because we have worked with polygamous couples, and most of the couples that we have worked with here in America, they polyamorous. They not polygamous. Them relationships don't last. The children are insane watching their parents do that. And really, all it is just some new. It's just dumb. It's not.
Right, let me ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Now, I get them mixed up. Which is the one where the woman is able to have multiple husbands? Have you ever worked with someone polyandry? Have you ever worked with someone that was practicing that?
No, we've never seen that situation. Now we know of people that are in that situation in other lands, but here in America, not now. I see some memes and some pictures going around. Every time I got like 15,000 comments, I just scroll past it because it's just silly. Like it's silly, not because I'm not sensitive to understand that something like that could exist. What you're talking about in the pictures and stuff is not, it has no gammy in it at all. It's no marriage in it. It's no real responsibility. There is no, Black people are under the misnomer that white people brought legal marriage to the world. And that's not true. We actually did that. We were actually bringing marriage licenses to the world. Now, let me just say this. That was also, as Nwasha was saying, in a time when our nations were being besieged by foreigners. So this was already after the creation of these races and white men, as they were coming back into the continent, we were letting them and nations abroad know, no, Montsho and Nwasha are they're legally yoked. So when we were descending, but we still had power. We said, look, we have a marriage license, and that license has an army behind it. So if you disrespect my wife and she's from this nation, our army is coming to see you, right? And so we instituted long before that. We had marriages, but we are the ones. We got a lot of people, and a lot of people that supposed to have knowledge of self be out there saying the white man came up with a marriage. Do your history, black man. Do your history, black woman, because that's not actual and factual. I will say that we didn't always need that. And there was a time period where we didn't use it, but we actually created it. And
now, is there a discernment, though, between the financial aspect, like Europeans making it cost, versus if Black people started it, it wasn't a fee? Because I know that's the argument, the problem that a lot of Black people have with it is the financial.
About the cost of being married?
No, the cost of
having to pay a fee. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, your costs money. I mean, like, you know what I mean?
Most
like,
people
yeah.
have a driver's license and they will gladly pay the $34.
Yeah.
You know, I think what people argue always reveals another layer of their beliefs.
Right.
So I think we pay for dog licenses, and people weren't having pets. You know, and we didn't believe in capturing and kidnapping and imprisoning animals. Right. But people will go get a dog license, a driver's license,
a hair license, a barber license. Like, cut it out. Like, you got a driver's license, a voting card, a gun license, and all that, and then you're like, I'm not letting the white man tell me I got to get a license to. Then turn your driver's license in. You know what I'm saying? And I know some of the Moors and all of these different people was on that. And that's not practical for most of us. Most of us are so vetted into this culture. You know, one of the things of our cultural traumatic stress, because we love Dr. DeGroy, and she says post-traumatic slave syndrome, it's just not post, it's present. And it's not just a slave syndrome, it's a cultural traumatic, like our culture is besieged in all of those 11 areas. So we get degrees, we pay for that. We pay for a YouTube ad, but we pay for license. Like come on, like, it just gets ridiculous when you start really looking at a people. You know what I'm saying?
One thing that I wanted to circle back to, did y'all just see my break? Anyway, was the language that you were talking about, and I caught a little bit of your lecture online, and you were talking about the word romantic and also falling in love. Could you explain that to the viewers?
Well, we've asked people not to say romantic to describe the epitome of Black love, because you're highlighting Rome as, you know, the most intimate love that there is. And I think that, again, when you don't have a reference for what it means to be intimate, we don't understand that we have the first soulmate stories, that we have had, of course, marriages and intimate love before Rome. So we have a residue where, you know, we can't even describe intimate love without saying romantic and glorifying another culture as though they were the first to be chivalrous or have a poem or create a song. And we know that there are monuments on the earth right now that were made in honor of a wife, in honor of a queen, in honor of a loving relationship. They're still standing, some of them. So there's no reason for us to say romantic. It's another challenge that we have, coming from the fact that we can't think outside of a colonized language. So this is our instinct. We actually don't even question it, which I think is, I know a lot of people are not into language like that. They don't look up words per se. And this is why we have communication issues in relationships, because we learn some words when we're babies, and we just keep learning more words through school. And if we're really amazing, we're going to get up to that like 5,000, 10,000 words, right? And then we're saying we're fluent, but we really don't know what the words that we're using mean. And this is why, in a second, my meaning for whatever word is conflict with your meaning of a word, and we could be fighting. So I think when it comes to saying things like I'm falling in love, like I don't have any say, or you can't help who you love, or all the things that we lie to ourselves about that we would never do in another category of life, it's it's no wonder why our relationships can't last, because we're looking to hold ourselves up. Our model for love is coming from a colonizer who doesn't even really love themselves. They don't love love. They don't love their own relationship.
You don't believe in love.
We are modeling people who don't love each other, and we're doing it even that at a disadvantage. When we don't, if you ask someone, who are their 5 relationships that they would model in love, what are people going to say? Like, what are the 5 successful relationships that you can model in love that are Black?
They're going to say Obama, Michelle, Beyonce, Jay-Z.
And that's if they're lucky. But the point, even when they say that, I say, what do you really know about them? Because you are so far removed from Michelle and Barack Obama or Jay-Z and Beyonce. So that goes back to social media, # relationship goals. You don't know one thing about them that's not extremely curated. That's not even like your coworker that got on social media. That they got people posting for them. So
or they stay away from those.
You got people filming for them, right? So what they put out is extremely curated, more than the person that you're sitting next to at work. So this is the challenge, because we can't put our hands on 5 couples that we want to model in love. And when we pick people, it becomes this kind of like fairy tale version of them, which is the same as going with any colonized stream. You are only going to know what somebody wants you to know, which is not even to your own benefit in anything that is actually practical. So you can't model the way Barack and Michelle communicate. You can't model the way that they raise their children. Really, you can assume 1 or 2 things and choose to model the imagination that you have of them, the imaginative version. And that could be to your benefit, because we highlight people like that. To say, it could be somebody off of TV if you choose to model 30 people intentionally. But if you just like # relationship goals.
It recently came out that during his time as the president, they was going through a turbulent time, and I think they even went to counseling.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, G. The one thing you need to model of all of them, they've all been in counseling for years. That's the one thing people don't talk about, and we know that firsthand. They all been in counseling for Michelle Obama wrote it in her book. Beyonce and Jay-Z talked about it. And any couple that have been together as long as those couples have, you've been in counseling, because counseling, receiving wise counsel. There was always 6 men and 6 women around any relationship. See, many of the things that we do today, we believe somebody just making it up, but they're really vestiges of African culture, but they're hollow. For example, when you have a wedding party at your wedding, the people who marry you, like me and Nwasha have married 7 couples. We have 2 couples coming up that we're about to marry. We're taking through our system and we're about to marry them. But your wedding party, your what we call today the groomsmen and the bridesmaid, that's just not your friends that stink at relationships and your homegirl from college or whatever. That's supposed to be a group of people that are successfully married, who are standing up saying, we are vowing our marriage and our skill set and connecting it to these people. But today, this is a picture opportunity. We're going to dress in magenta or whatever, or I'm going to have a crew from back in the day, and we're going to do our jail poses, or we're going to do our homegirl poses. And then at the end of the day, in 2 months, when the relationships start going to hell, you can't even call any of them, because they suck at relationship. You're the only one in the group probably married. Or if you are not, you married, but you the other people are divorced and they don't really have anything to offer you. So now, after this event, we don't focus on weddings where there's a husband. I mean, we don't focus on marriages where there's a husband and wife. We focus on weddings where there's a bride and groom. And we always say, those are 3 different words from each other for a reason. That's an event. the wedding.
Yeah.
It's a bride and groom. That's just an event, and that's the kind of people we are. We want everything to be an event and not a cultural process, because being married is actually becoming a new life. That's why when we're on social media, we have this one page called Nwasha. Everybody thinks one of us is named Nwasha, and we're not. That's the word Montsho and Nwasha put together. In all ancient African cultures, you don't just change your name where she takes his name. He takes on a version of her name as well. We become soulmates, so that when you see her, you see him. When you see him, you see her. And I've been told by elders that when you get married, they begin to call her by his name and call him by her name, because now you're adding to yourself. Now we see this in modern culture. Because culture is in our DNA, we always bring it out. Look at us when we grow up. When you at home, you get a name. Your mom and dad give you a name. Then when you start growing in your family, you get a new nickname because of the way you act or whatever. Then when you get out into your peer group and you on the street, they give you another name. You know what I'm saying? If you get nice in sports or singing or ballet or whatever, you get another name. When you go to college or whatever, if you pledge or whatever, you get another name. And so if you get some knowledge of self, you get another name. You know, if you get married, then that's when that stops. Like, you got my name.
Did you have something else? Because I had a few questions that people
Yeah.
ask.
What I wanted to do, I'm gonna let you ask your question next. But what I wanted to do, because we're getting a whole lot of messages.
I knew it.
And I just want to read these messages to you. I gotta get a little closer because I'm getting up in age, and I can't read none of this. All right. Ramsey Stevens said, "Peace, fam." Sissy Harry says, "Hey, Marcia." My brother Ola, he said, "Peace to the gods and earth. Peace, black man." Clayton McDonald, he said, "Laugh out loud. We keep trying to find the bandit." He also said it's about the loss of the importance of the black family, and it leaks into all we do. Ola said, "I'm old school. I believe in picking up your phone. That's why I can't rock with all of you." And he also says, "Great point. I'll be honest, I miss the typewriter." Okay.
Bluetooth typewriters out there.
Yeah, David Austin, he said, "Group value system."
That's my man.
He also says, "We still doing polygamy." He said, "We still doing polygamy underground though." And to be honest, man, a lot of us is practicing polygamy and don't even know it.
Yeah,
so
no question.
Nicole Clink Scale, and I'm just gonna call her Nicole. I'm not gonna mess up your name. She said some of this stuff I can't read. "Polygamy is still practiced in my culture back in Nigeria." All right. Queen said, "Listening." Ola said, "Great dialogue. Interesting words have power. Mirroring Anglo-Saxon European trauma bonding. Now I know I can come to Nwasha Edu or the Babalaos." So they said they're gonna come to you for marriage counseling. So what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna let Marcia ask her question, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna listen. For our second part, we about to take y'all to school. Y'all gonna learn about the Black Love School. All right. So Marcia, take it away.
These two questions, one from a male, one from a female, they are centered around, I guess, one night stands maybe, or having sex outside of a relationship. So for the female,
hold on 1 minute, y'all. No, go ahead.
Okay. So for the female, the question is, okay, so if one were they're in the space where they're trying to manifest or bring in their soulmate, should they engage in sex for the time being because they want to have intimacy, but they haven't found the person. Should they go ahead and engage in sexual contact with?
Yeah, is that a real question?
It is a real question, because I guess what it is that they haven't found the partner that they're looking for, but they want to have sex. Should they abstain and wait, or should they have sex with Mr. Right Now?
Right. Well, sex is not the way to build intimacy. Sex is the proof of intimacy building. So I would say, in a holistic answer, I would say no, they should not have sex. We courted for 9 months without having sex before we got together. A lot of people just, because of where they spend their mental energy, they're not into that. So I would say that sex does not build intimacy. And it's obvious by the fact that we have sex and we have children and we hate people that we have children with. So sex doesn't build intimacy. So there is no correlation between building intimacy through sex. So I would say my first answer would be no, but because I am a realist and I understand the condition of our people, I would say, just say you want to have sex and then go ahead and have it.
So you should. So it's not a problem.
No, you should not. But I'm saying that because I'm saying it, it's not going to change reality at all. So if you want to have sex, just go ahead and have it and do whatever you want to do, because your self-determination will lead you to enlightenment, whether it is through righteousness or through the struggles that come with your decisions. When you have AIDS or when you have a bunch of children that you can't deal with, whatever comes from your decision will ultimately bring you to enlightenment. So you're a god and goddess of the universe. It's nothing higher than you. You go ahead and make the decisions, but you should have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the two purposes of sex and how sex comes after commitment in a mathematical scientific equation. Sex is not something we experiment with or whatever. When I made those parallels earlier, people try to say, well, I need to know if we're sexually compatible and stuff like that. And I always say, listen, if you're a man and she a woman, you're sexually compatible. We've known that for millions of years. So you ain't really trying to figure that out. You just we are emotionally immature because we don't have a culture behind us. Any people who lost their culture are emotionally mature. Emotionally immature. So all Black people here, for the most part, are emotionally immature. Many of us have empirical data. We quote lessons. Brother Raheem know a lot of them. And different people who have information. That consciousness went out when the internet came in, because now everybody got all information. So, you quoting some facts don't really mean anything. But what we don't have is emotional fitness, which is the ability to discern emotions, the ability to demonstrate emotions, having an emotional vocabulary, having emotional flexibility, emotional strength, having emotional endurance, and emotional literacy. We can't even read emotions. It's like, what's wrong with you? You mad? You know what I mean? And then it's like, nah, I'm cool. I know you mad. What's going on? Just talk. You'll get in a fight trying to prove that something is wrong with the other person. So we're so emotionally immature. It's like that question is like saying, should we overeat or should we eat only what our body needs? Obviously, we should only eat what our body needs, right? And when we had our culture, there was a system that when we turned 21 years old, a 7-year fasting system, we're actually on it right now, that over a 7-year period, it took you gently to eating one meal every 3 days. That's all the human body needs, right? This is what Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us after a certain age, because we mature in 7 cycles of 7. So that fourth 7, 21 to 28, is metabolic maturity, right? When you get there after 28 years old, this is why we say when I hit 30, my body changed. It really happened at 28, but you notice it at 30 because 30 is around age. But after 28, you only need, especially this garbage we eating, you only need one meal every 3 days, right? So if a person says, should we overeat or should we eat healthy? That's the same as saying, Should I be having sex while I'm looking for my soulmate? I would say define a soulmate and watch everybody turn into an owl. You know, you just want to have sex, because as a therapist, I'll tell you this: the three things that Black people supplicate themselves with in this culture, and we dealing with hell. So I understand. I love my people. They're the best people in the world. I don't attack them because they're victims, because in their nature, they're truly gods and goddesses. So just because they lost the knowledge of themselves, I'm not going to jump over their head. I don't want anybody to misunderstand my passion for thinking that I'm dogging my people. I love my people. They're the best in the world, but we hurt as hell, right? And so the three things that we use to supplicate our emotions is food, sex,
And drugs.
But now I would add the entertainment value of social media. If we were in our right mind, we wouldn't even, social media wouldn't even have a grip on us. It only has a grip on us. So many people are thirsty for likes and interacting. People get up in the morning, don't even wash their face. They be on their phone trying to see what's going on. You don't have that many friends, and then you don't have friends in real life.
And if they were your friends, they would want to
wash your face. So when people ask those kind of questions, sometimes I'll be like,
well, no, again,
is that a real question? Like,
I don't know how to find my woman.
right.
So I believe that that's going to take a long time. So I'm saying I have physical needs and I'll entertain somewhere else. But if that's a woman asking that question, it's actually harder to get from being entrapped with a man that you're having sex with than it is for men. So now, a lot of times when women are taking the position that men take, like, hey, I'm gonna just have sex with whoever I think is gonna be good at it, and this person's gonna tighten me up every month while I'm on the search for my actual soulmate, it's hard to segment that. So now intimacy, true intimacy, you need to have before sex, but you can have a false entrapment with someone because of sex, especially as a woman. So if you have sex a couple of times and don't let the sex actually be good, then that's going to delay you from finding your soulmate, because when you could have been out somewhere dating or even living your own life, meeting the person who was on the path to be your soulmate, he was there and you weren't there because you were having sex with the other guy.
I would say this to women as well.
That's called an entanglement.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would say this to Black women. Black women have changed, and Black men have changed. Black men have not changed in their social nature. They just have changed the way they deal with women. Women have changed their social nature. Their social nature used to be, even in this experience during the enslavement process, even when we were enslaved, Black people got married more than they do today, right? Even in chattel slavery, we were getting married more, and we had a whole country against that, right? But what has happened is Black women are, as Malcolm X said, they are so abused and they are so neglected. And a lot of men finger wag at women. I'm not one of those men. I don't think that it's my place to tell, I'm not a woman, so I don't tell Black women anything. I talk to men, right? Most of the men know something that Black women don't know. When you don't have full commitment from a Black man, and you start having sex with him, every time you do, you are that closer to never having commitment from him. The way we operate is that sex has a value in this culture to men that supersedes most things. The proof of it is men who are responsible to women are having sex with them, unless she is their sister, their mother, their daughters. I mean, in other words, when we at the Akoma House Initiative, we define responsibility as doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. If there is a man who is responsible to a woman, he's having sex with her. Today, men entertain women. You could come around me, you could be in my car, You could be in my group. You can be on my show. You could do whatever it is that I'm doing. If you are willing to trade that from sex, that's where we stay until you get tired of that. Because the nature of the relationship is like this. We tell this to our clients often. Men want something to stay the same in a relationship, which is usually how you look, how you interact sexually, or how you nurture his life. Women want something to continuously change. And when I say change, I mean get higher and higher and higher. That's the level. So when we kicking it, I have one expectation with you. When we start going out and spending time together, I want that to change. I want that to increase. When we start having sex, I want that to increase. When we have children, I want that to increase. When we're living together, I want that to increase. When we're planning for the future and our legacy, I want that to increase. So they constantly want the relationship to change, but somewhere they've been duped. And I don't even think it has anything to do with Black men. I think it has to do with white men who are the true creators of the feminist movement, which is something that a lot of Black people don't know. They used white women as a shield for an idea. This is why historically, most of the white women who are feminists were actually married. But the Black women who got into that movement were not married. So they were being used as a decoy by the white men who started feminism, right? So I put the onus on them, but they used their women too, right? And they made Black women believe in something. You know, Raheem talked about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that taught us something here called restrictive law. In the MGT and the Nation of Islam, and you know the old version of that movement, the old version of the Nation of Gods and Earth, there was a protocol to deal with a woman. You got 90 days to interact with her. If you decide after that you're ready to commit, you are supposed to marry her, and that is a public decree.
90 days.
Not look. If it takes you less than 90 days to buy a house, less than 90 days to buy a car, less than 90 days to go to college, less than 90 days to go to the military, less than 90 days to do anything significant in life because you've been pre-qualified, why does it take us 8 years to figure out after we have 3 children with this woman that we don't want to be with her? This is
I can understand that. I definitely can understand that because I met people, you know, I met people where I would have married them love on first sight. So it wouldn't have took me 90 days.
Right.
That's the one right there.
You know,
I think, but a lot of men say that.
A lot of men say that.
So a lot of men say, when I met her, I know she's wife material.
Right.
When I met her, it took me 1 or 2 dates to see where her mind was or the type of energy that she had. And of course, we know it's going to take time to build a full relationship. And you're going to go deeper and deeper into intimacy. And then you're going to say, of course, even when you get married, you know, 5 years is going to be one level of marriage, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. You're going to keep changing and have multiple kinds of relationships within the one relationship. But I think a lot of men say that. Like, she didn't grow on me for 4 years. I kind of knew. I actually maybe only approached her because I thought that she was that. You know what I mean? So I think that women, we sometimes say, this person grew on me, or I wasn't looking at him in that way, or you know, we were friends. But a lot of times men don't do that.
Listen, women, if you out there listening, it's some dude telling you that I wasn't looking at you that way, but now he lying. You know what I mean? Like, that's not real. We know right away, and if we don't know exactly right away, because see, this is what I say: men study women, women study the fairy tales in their head, so they don't really study men. So when you start asking women, how do we select a mate? They don't know. People don't even ask them that.
I'm not going for that. You really believe that?
I know it because I've worked with over 5,000 couples.
Nwasha, you believe that?
Let me say this. Let me say this. No, let me say this, Marcy. If women study men, how are 7 out of 10 women unmarried? What do they know that they're not doing? They don't. The proof is in the pudding. Because listen, 7 out of 10 women are not virgins. They're sleeping with men. A lot of them have children. They need financial help. So there is obviously, they are giving away, and I don't victim, I'm not one to blame a woman, but this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a woman has an idea of what she wants, what the man has to do. Da, 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 da. If you ask the average woman, paint this idea of your ideal man. What does he like? Where does he go? Where is he at? What kind of things is he involved in? I've been talking to women for 25 years. We've been working together in couples. We've serviced over 5,000 couples all over the earth. And we deal with this in the Black Love School. Although the relationship industry, women are the number one buyers of that industry, that even proves my point, because they are looking for something that they don't feel that they have. A lot of men are not in the relationship industry until their women pull them along. Because why? They're getting what they want without any other help. They want sex and they want these non-committal relationships. They're getting that. So they don't feel as though they have a problem.
A lot of industries, and then we focus on ourselves in a lot of industries, whether that is makeup, health, we focus on ourselves first, as we should, but then moving beyond to really see like who is your audience. I do think men do that better. So men, because they know women are the audience, they study different kinds of women. Women, we think about ourselves and what we want. And then when a man has studied us a lot of times, we can think the right thing, do the right thing for a certain amount of time. And when we are invested, we are more invested in the idea that we thought we were buying into, where we will be over-invested or over-committed or over-nurturing or see their potential, right? Rather than really be like, I know the kind of man that I want, and I understand multiple kinds of men. I think that women, a lot of our conversation is like, it's either this man is great and he's a unicorn, or all men are a certain kind of way. And men don't have that kind of conversation. When they do, they're just being immature. Like all women are gold diggers. They know that that's not true. They know they can go to church or around the corner, or their mom can hook them up with somebody. They know that. But a lot of times women have these kind of like polarized views of men, where they either don't exist, or it's the unicorn one that I got, or they're all dogs. So we don't really have the understanding of studying how men react and how men look at love, right?
Men are
this
on
is
the
very
hunt.
interesting. I just want to insert this really quick, because the information that you're providing, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but I guess it goes against, like, even the conversation we were having the other night about Black women just in pain because they want Black men and they're chasing these Black men and they feel like they're not getting anywhere. So you saying that, I feel like Black women are really doing the most trying to get the attention of men, and they're failing. So,
well, Black women are doing the most trying to get a certain amount of attention from a certain kind of man for themselves, though.
But
let me just say this. Most women, how are Black women trying to get the attention of men? When it comes to like social media or positioning or clothes or hairstyles and stuff like that, that's not really attracting a man based on any values or beliefs. Again, you want a certain amount of validation as a woman. You want to wake up to the 300 likes. You want to wake up to the comments, or even when you go out just for actual real life interaction. A lot of times women are dressed for other women. Right. They're not really things for men.
Can you reel that back one moment? I need you to repeat that about what women are doing, because I think that's very, very important what you just said. You kind of skimmed by it. Could you repeat that?
Women's culture is being, the value system is being determined by women. The men's culture is the same way. Men do things that other men co-sign, not women, right? So when we do stuff, and Raheem, we from New Jersey. Raheem, you from New Jersey, right?
No, I'm from Harlem.
Oh, you from the up top. All right. So you know this. that women or men, we do the things because we're taught about relationships, not by women. And there should be a balance of men and women. Like our moms might be saying, don't treat women a certain way or whatever. But when we come to our manhood on the streets, we listen to men and we do things that they say do. Women are the same way. We'll say, nah, man, don't approach her like that. That's soft. Let me put you up on game. Do this and say this and be like this. And we say, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. You say, a woman say, oh, look, let's wear these shirts. I ain't wearing the same shirt. Like, we don't do that. We'll say little things like that because in the men's culture, that's not seen as credible. Women are the exact same way. Many of the things that are driving the narratives that they do is, hey, it's from other women. Co-sign. It's not a bunch of men sitting around saying, yes, sister, that's the right thing to do. It's like women are saying, yes, girl, you a boss, do this, get them butterflies on your eyelids and float away and do all of that. You're doing it. No men say, oh, that's really nice. Women will say, I don't care what no man thinks. I'm doing this for me. But then they will say, I'm out here doing the most for men. Not really. You're doing the same thing that men doing. You're doing what you like. And but you do what you like, but then you want who you want to like it too. When they don't, rather than
the problem.
Rather than say, does this measure up to a cultural standard, you'll say, I'm a boss and no man can't tell me what to do. The same way, but now here's the problem. Friday night is coming. Saturday night is coming. And bed get lonely, people want somebody to mate with. So what they do, they surrender any standard they have. And we've been in sessions with women who say, oh, we at a level 8 and this is soulmate goals and da-da-da. And when I get in a one-on-one with that man, I was like, bro, so what's good? I'm not really into her like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to see where it's going to go, but I'm already looking at the front door. She picking out the wedding patterns and you at the front door. So I'm saying that if that's happening over and over and over again, somebody is very emotional about what they're in. You're not in the relationship that you think that you're in. You're not.
So you know what? That brings me to my next question because we're running out of time. Yo, this is a real good conversation. We got to do this again, y'all. So listen, right? The men, we got it messed up. The women, they got it messed up. But we got a solution for all that. Y'all about to go to the Black Love School.
Okay.
I want y'all to tell them about the Black Love School, dealing with magnetism, attracting your soulmate, and the best part is sex and intimacy.
Oh, snap. You peeped the sex and intimacy class, huh?
Yeah, listen now. No, but listen.
That's my favorite too.
Yeah, sex is only sacred energy unknown.
That's
so
right.
We here to make them find what the known, make the unknown known to them. So right. Natasha, I want you to go first, and then I want the brother to go second.
Well, Black Love School is where you are going to get the rite of passage that you haven't gotten. So it's really the entire realm of what we should know in order to have fulfilling relationships. So we teach the Black Love School by the seasons. Right now we're in the culture of love because Akoma Day is coming up, and this is where we deal with magnetism, the deeper science, the culture of love. But we're moving to the spring in March where we're going to deal with renewal, making your relationship new again, or coming out yourself, like blooming yourself. And then sex and intimacy is in the heat of love, all the passions and senses of sex. This summer we did healing from trauma in sex because that's a big issue in relationships. Mm-hmm. And then we're coming from the harvest of love, which is the fall where we talk about communication. There's a lot of major holidays building up to the winter where there's some conflict. So we kind of talk about what are you reaping all year and what kind of relationship do you want to have, and even setting up some goals for the next year. So that's the cycle for the Black Love School. We release 2 classes every month, every other week. And then every other week we have a live call about it. So we had a call on Friday that was wrapping up the Arodha Yahisi, which is the 7 senses. Most people only know about 5 senses, but we talk about 7 senses in indigenous culture. The idea
Hold on, tell us the 7 senses. The 7 senses.
Yes, we're familiar with sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, but we actually have thought and emotion as the first 2 senses. So when you're interpreting what you're getting in a relationship, or even when it comes to sex, anything that's in the physical reality, we're interpreting it through the senses. So it's very important to know what you're thinking first is part of the magnetism. And your mood sets the tone for the reactions that you get and your reaction to others. When we're in a good mood, we don't react the same way as when we're in a bad mood. And that's just facts. You can see the same thing, hear the same thing, smell the same thing, but if you're in a good mood, you have a completely different reaction. So it's important for us to know that thought and emotion are 2 senses. They're the spiritual senses that come before the 5 physical. And even when it comes to sex, like you have to really use as many senses as you can to heighten the experience. And we naturally do these things, but this is the opportunity for us to learn how to do it. So if you are interested in coming to Black Love School, you can send us an email. We can invite you to the class that will be in 2 weeks, but you can sign up for the membership. It's $42 a month. In the spirit of Ma'at, you get the 2 classes and a live call where we kind of talk about the heart work. That's what we call the homework. So even when it comes to the sex classes, there is homework to do, even if you are by yourself. Now, what I was saying to like what Marcia was saying, when you're by yourself, but you want to have sex, I'm not, so I'm talking about just physical passion, love, experience. There are things that you can actually do to heighten your awareness, right? While you're but while you're actively cultivating a relationship with somebody else, even on the magnetism, like I'm just looking to live my life in a more purposeful way so that I actually meet potential mates. Because a lot of people just want their man to be, dropped on the doorstep, or you either got to be the mailman, you have to be someone who's coming over on a regular, because we're not really adjusting our lives, like Montsho was saying, thinking about who's the man that I want, where does he entertain himself, where does he look for his spiritual awareness, where is he learning, what is he doing, and then let me put myself there, right, as I'm finding the complement. So our 2 paths are going to connect. A lot of times we're not being intentional. So
never show up.
The Black Love School is a great place to have fellowship around love. It's a great place to learn real skills, because it's all about really practicing the hard work so that your life changes. But it's also, I think these are the good things about the internet, that you can come. We have people in the islands, in multiple countries. So this is why we talk about the diaspora, because what we found is if you're from, England, France, Australia, New Zealand, South America, North America, the Caribbean, we all have challenges, and there are similar challenges even within like a subcultural context. Our primary issue is that we've been separated from the truth, even when we have some of the cultural remnants. Because I will say, sometimes people are like, I have my dress from my culture, I have some of my language from my culture, I have my food, I have my music, but we don't have the value system. So you can have some of the remnants of your culture. If you don't have the beliefs, you need to be re-taught. You need to relearn how to even look at yourself, let alone look at the complement, and then how to deal on the regular, like set goals, organize our time, be healthy, have sex, have a conversation. We really have to be taught how to communicate. So the Black Love School is, I think, the place anyone should come if you're Black. And you should plan to stay for a year minimum and hit every one of those seasons so that you can have the foundation or the rite of passage that we all would have had.
Now let me ask you something, right? You also have a Facebook group, right?
Yeah, we just started a week ago today. We started.
I'm a member of it. Yeah,
I'll put you in there, brother.
Oh, you put me in there. Hey, listen, man, I might find my soulmate in there.
Yeah. Well,
from the motherland.
This is the thing. Let's talk about the Black Love School. Nwasha explained it very well. We got these every season. Our focus changes: either the culture of love, heat of love, spring into love, or the harvest of love. But the illest part of it, so you get the live, you get the new class every week. And then, I mean, 1 week, then you have the live call. And the third week, you get a new class. And then the fourth week is a live call. So every other week, it's either a class or a call. A live call is the illest part about it because you on the phone, like one summer, we was in the heat of love, right? We had beautiful brothers and sisters from Compton, Detroit, Canada, Brazil, Martinique, Jamaica, Panama, Ghana, like Tanzania, London. Ola, been in some of the classes, and he in London. All of these people coming together, whether you singles, couples, you're in a relationship, or some people trying to get out of relationships, are in this environment together. Nothing like this, as a therapist that I've seen, exists in the world, where Black people of all different nationalities, it's only Black and brown people, you ain't getting in there no other kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, but we started the Facebook group because of this. A lot of times when we do the live call, which is everybody's favorite part, it's a beautiful experience. We have love. We invite you to the next one and try it out. We hang out, we hug each other, we love each other. It's just a beautiful, oh wow, we even had two couples now that hooked up in the Black Love School. You know, see something in France that you like.
Okay.
You see something So people starting to hook up, which is something that we love because you're in the right place to do that because we just are in science of Black love culture. So you can't be, if they look up, we told some of the couples, they'd say, hey, yo, we hooked up. We say, now look now, if we talk about the science, which we say that the women need, and the art, which the men need. We both need them both, but the art is the why of love. So it's the philosophy, the approach. Men need to understand you're going to live longer, make more money, have more sex, and be more at peace if you are committed in a monogamous relationship. Men don't know that, and oftentimes because of their fear of relationships, they don't believe that. So they need the art. Women really need that science. What is the science? It's the methodology, the technique, or the steps. If it's 7 steps to the pyramid, women be like, oh, I met him. Now we had sex. What are we doing? What does this mean? Are we committed? Should I have sex with other people while I'm waiting for him to get out of jail? Like what? Like it's like all of these steps are wrong. You went from step 1 to step 8, step 12, and it's only 7 steps. How do you get to 12?
So how can, if somebody wanted to participate and reach out to you guys, what's the best method for people to contact you guys?
To go to AkomaHouseInitiative.com. So the Akoma is the Adinka symbol. That is what we call the heart. So if you go to Akoma, AKOMA, houseinitiative.com, you can find the Black Love School.
This is an Akoma. It's not a heart. Stop calling this symbol a heart on Facebook or wherever you at. This is, okay, get it right. That's an Akoma that deals with the sacred science of SoulMating. It's not a heart. Go ahead.
No, you finish. Go ahead.
I had to say that because when you say Akoma, people be like, Coma, what's that?
So you're on Facebook.
All right, yo, listen, real
Instagram.
quick. Speaking of Akoma, right? After y'all answer Marcia's question, I want y'all to go into what Akoma Day is because that's coming up. And I understand that y'all the co-founder of that. I want you to explain to the people what it is and why y'all felt the need to honor that day for us as melanated people. And I think 50 countries, if I'm not mistaken, is already practicing it.
Oh, thank you for the advancing. It's like 15 countries. We'll take the 50.
Oh, 15. I thought it was 50. I said 50.
It's like 15
all right, 15
right now.
countries.
Yes, Akoma Day. Nwasha is putting the content in the chat. Akoma Day is a 7-day holiday that we created. I actually had the idea for Akoma Day before I met Nwasha. And I shared it with Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and he stamped it and said, yo, brother, take it and go. But I was still a little bit apprehensive because I was missing something. When I met my divine complement, my Neterhem, my divine wife, she really helped me take Akoma Day to the next level. So I always tell the Black man, the same way you give your seed to your Black woman and she brings forth life, you got to give your ideas to her because she's gonna balance it and bring energy. So I had a 1-day holiday on February 14th. I had the concept. I had certain things in play, but when I met Nwasha, we took it to 7 days with the understanding that the original celebration, even Valentine's Day, that is based off of an original African celebration, used to be a week long. It was called the Festival of Lupercalia, and it's very sick and misogynist and pedophilic and rapist and all of that. But we created Akoma Day off the understanding that this symbol that you're calling the heart on Facebook, oh, I got hearts and all that, that's actually an Akoma. What it actually deals with is the science of soulmating, that men and women were one on a spiritual plane. They separated and went through their humps and reconnected in the mind. So that symbol that we call the heart is actually a divine symbol of the sacred science of soulmating. It's actually where the mythos that a man or a woman came from the rib of each other, because in the spiritual realm, you're one being that separates. And then when you're born as a boy or a girl, you reunite. So this is really where the term soulmate comes from. So when we began to understand all of this, we wanted to have a celebration. Men wasn't feeling no silly celebration with a white little boy shooting arrows and stuff like that. So we wanted to bring our culture back. So we see that the men, it's not hard to sell Black women on love. They love love and they embody love. So it's natural to them. But for the men, we bring in the culture and we bring in the science of it. And so it brings them magnetically. And so we started Akoma Day officially the way it is now 20 years ago. And instantly, man, it just started to take off. It's in small places, Germany, Ghana, the United Arab Emirates, Jamaica, Brazil, the States. It's in 14 countries around the world where Black people are. A new group of people in New Zealand celebrating it, Australia. So it's a 7-day holiday that has 7 virtues, 7 principles, gift giving, festivals, entertainment, all of that. We've been doing it all around, up and down the East Coast. Mainly, we've been doing celebrations. We did one in Jamaica one time, but up and down the East Coast, but people are celebrating all over the world. And so this book really outlines, it's 3 books in one. It talks about the state of Black relationships as seen through teenagers in the first part, because they're next to become adults. And even though they love their parents, they don't believe that their parents know anything about relationships because they can't manifest them. The second part of the book looks at Akoma Day next to Valentine's Day, why we created it, what's the signs and symbols, and why Valentine's Day is crazy for any Black people. The third part of this book has over 28 exercises like the word purge and the word cultivation, where we take out words like fall in love or different romantic and other things we should stop saying. And then those are word purge and word cultivation. But you could do the exercises if you're single, couple, family, with your children. And so we have a whole line now. We're building Akoma Day kits. We have greeting cards, T-shirts. This is just a whole for children, all the way up to elders. So Akoma Day is a 7-day holiday about the art and science of Black love culture that puts the symbol back in its proper cultural context.
All right, Marcia, you have one more question?
No.
Okay. So listen, right? In wrapping up, right? I got one more question, and that question is, y'all do therapy, y'all do counseling for other couples, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if y'all have issues? Who can y'all go to?
That's a great question. I think that we have looked at, who have taught us, whether that was Queen Afua and Baba Haru when they were together, or Dr. Africa and, Dr. Stevenson. We've looked for people that have made an impact on us, and again, that we have wanted to model for whatever reason as the people that really can help guide us. And anyone who is ahead of us in marriage, they could be our age, right? Or maybe even if they've gotten married younger than us, if they've been together longer than we have, they've seen more of a relationship than we have, then that's who we're really looking to model. I also think that one of the reasons why we even started Black Love School is to make sure that we have a community of couples where we can go back and forth. So we're definitely, leading in many ways, setting the tone for the classes about things that we have found really useful. But in teaching it and working with other people and seeing all of the different kinds of couples that we come in contact with, it helps us have that fellowship and community. And that also makes you feel like you're not alone. Because a lot of times in a relationship, you swear whatever problem you're having, like you're the only one having it, or the only one having it in that way, right? And we need to be able to see that relationships are unique because the two people are unique. You'll never be duplicated. You have a unique heartprint, footprint, fingerprint on the earth. There are common things that every person is going through and common things that every couple is going through. And I think we know that if we're looking at a little girl and anticipating what she's going to go through as a woman, or if we're looking at a boy and we're anticipating what he's going to go through, there are things that you can tell someone about coming into womanhood, even though that looks different for every single person, and coming into manhood. And I think we have to think the same thing happens when we couple up and we are, coming into commitment or coming into marriage, coming into relationship. There are certain things, it's like a toolbox. If you have a couple of tools, would you rather have 2 tools or do you want 20? Like that expression, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and you're just, we really have to have some range in our life. And I think that that's what we look for, whether it's books, experiences, couples, model. We look for the truth that is going to help us develop as an individual and then help us develop as a unit, as a people.
And in 21 years together, we have been to counseling. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, that's true. Official, pay somebody by the hour counseling.
Yeah. Even though we've been therapists, really our whole relationship, I was on a call with 11 therapists or 12 therapists, and out of all 12 of them, 10 of them talked about being in counseling themselves. So a lot of times people don't understand that this is an art and a science. Just because you are a barber, most barbers don't cut their own hair. Some do. Just because you are a chef don't mean you don't go out to eat. Just because you're a therapist doesn't mean that you don't go to therapists. Most of the therapists that I know actually seek counsel. Our niche and our thing that we think we're definitely probably the first in the West to do fully. I know there's many like Juanja Kanjufu and Naeem Akbar and many others that came before us as an individual, but as a couple unit, I think we're one of the first to bring culturally based counseling that really, we have those degrees. We both have master's degrees with a focus in counseling, but we're really we've also been initiated into various systems, from the Nation of God's Nurse, the Nation of Islam, the Kemetic Dagara, Dogon, Botswana, and now even Nwasha is doing some EFOD training. So we've been getting initiations on an each one teach one for multiple years before the Google, Facebook, you know what I mean? I can look something up. You don't really learn like that. You actually learn from a master teacher. If you're going to become a master, which I would say immodestly that we are, you have to be taught by grandmasters. We got over 20 years in the game. The people who taught us got over 40 years in the game. And so, we go through every challenge that every other couple goes through. We had a blended family when we came together. I had 3 children. We dealt with long distance relationship, money challenges, everything that everybody else deals with. We deal with. So we're not sitting here trying to act like we're on some mountain that other people ain't on. We're right in the trenches with everybody else. We love our people, and we're just trying to, my wife says that relationships is the one area of life, one sphere of life. It's the most important sphere. Everybody wants to be great at it, but they don't get no training. They don't get no counseling. They just think, I want to be great because I'm different in my heart. I can fix it if I'm a man, or if I'm a woman, I'm special and I deserve something. But you don't have no training, no education, no support system, and you just think you're going to jump out here and do things great. You're going to get a great awakening. We are never going to rise as a nation if we don't get these families together. And I'm telling you, as a therapist, my youngest client is 4 years old. My oldest client is 67 years old, right?
You got a client that's 4 years old?
Yeah, he just turned 5. A little Latino boy, yeah. And he's dealing with family trauma.
Okay.
I have to break up the conversation for a minute because Raheem knows I get up at 5.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Hold on. My bedtime is 9 o'clock. I can't even keep my eyes open no more. So
Okay. So I'm just.
I keep telling him we gotta be strict on the time because I'm dying right now. I ain't even ate dinner yet. So
all right. I'm sorry. You know what? She told me last week, and I did the same
It is what
thing.
it is.
You know what?
We
We're gonna have to start it earlier. We're gonna have to start it earlier. And I'm looking at her like, why she not saying that? Why she ain't moving? She over there asleep.
I get it.
But all right. Just could you just wrap it up? Let everybody know where they can get the book at.
No, I'm done.
You can go, Marcia. I'm just gonna have them give the information where people can find them at on social media.
Okay, love you, Nwasha. I'm so happy to see you. Nice to meet you, husband.
Yes. Good to meet you.
Okay, bye.
All right. So where can people get the book at?
You can get the book from our website if you go there. That's probably the easiest. Nwasha put it in the chat.
Yeah, I put it in the private chat. If you
Okay, but for people that's on, because this is streaming like on 3 different channels.
Okay. So AkomaHouseInitiative.com. So it's AkomaHouseInitiative. So AkomaHouseInitiative.com. You can find the book, you can find the pocket rituals, you can find Black Love School, and if you want individual coaching, you can find that too. So we also just work with people who are, looking for a tailor-made strategy, soulmate strategy. So if you want to work with us for a couple sessions to a season, you can also find that information there.
All right. I definitely appreciate y'all. This is a conversation that I know the universal family need, because time like this, there's so much that's going on. And as you know, with COVID-19, domestic violence went through the roof because people were forced to deal with one another. And I think that if we had more courses and people like y'all that can counsel and guide people in their relationship, then we'll all be in a better place. How could any of this work though during COVID? Like how could people practice Akoma Day during COVID? Is there a way to do that?
We have a celebration coming up. The flyer is circulating. We'll send it to you. It's virtual. We got performers. We got like 10 couples rocking with us. We got all kind of different things that we're going to be sharing each day. We're going live at 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. 4 times every day over a 7-day period to show you. Some of it will be videos of where we've done Akoma Days, other places, and you will see every year we have a Ron Cipher, we have fashion shows, we have different things at Akoma Day that it's just a community celebration. So we want to make the celebration real, but everything has gone virtual now. Like we're talking to you right now. As a therapist, I see so many firms now are moving to national service and international service. We've been international since we started, but the same way you're doing conversation with us right now, you do a therapy like that. So you can get on Zoom in your privacy of your home, you're on the phone or you're with your therapist. So that's a big thing now. You got so many companies out there that are doing that. Most of them, the Black therapists on the rise, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah. The problem is many of them are just painting Santa Claus black. They're giving you chocolate covered white consciousness around psychology and psychiatry. My sister is a psychologist in Atlanta, and we talk about that. Like, this is our stuff. The word psych comes from the Sahu, the transmigration of the soul that the Greeks call psych, the goddess psych, that then became psychology and psychiatry. This is our stuff. This is not what we're doing. What Montsho and Nwasha is doing is we're taking you back to autochthonous or indigenous, or as we used to say on the Northeast, original man culture. This is not we're taking Sigmund Freud and trying to paint it black. We're not doing that. We're telling you what your ancient ancestors have done to create harmony between the sun, moon, and star before it was when the whole planet was black. You know what I mean? This stuff ain't new. This is just one part of culture that we need to relearn. And I would say that it's one of the most important parts, because back in the day, Raheem, when we came up, the proof of your consciousness was how much information you knew. Did you know today's mathematics? Did you understand?
Today's mathematics. That's
right. But now we're measuring our consciousness by those same three things, or I would say four, that Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about. Are your families intact and are they healthy? Do you see your children even if you don't live with them? Do you have peace between their mother or father? Are you physically healthy, or are you being taken out by designer diseases? Okay. Do you have control of your economic resources, and do you understand the science of warfare, whether it's advancing or protecting self-defense? These are the four ways now that we measure if you're conscious. If you can do these things at a certain level of proficiency, you're conscious. If you cannot, it don't matter what degrees you know. It don't matter what lessons you got. It don't matter if you're more Hebrew, whatever you call yourself, Muslim, RBG, Black Panther. None of that matters if you can't produce those four things in your immediate reality and help the people that you love replicate your greatness. So this is where we at, and this is what we on, and this is what we giving our lives up to. So, come rock with us if you want to learn more.
So that's right, Black family. Make sure y'all go out, man. Support the brothers and sisters. And listen, y'all definitely got to come back on. And I am sorry she had to leave. Usually we rock, but we pulling up on almost the 2-hour mark. But usually we just do it for like an hour and 20 minutes.
We appreciate a little.
But that just goes to show you, in conversation, time flies. When a whole lot of Jews, someone said, yo, Nwasha is dropping a lot of Jews today.
Yeah. They said Yoda gems. Nwasha's Yoda over here.
They in the comments, they definitely giving it up. And we're going to do this again. I want to say peace and Black power, family. And we'll meet again. Okay?
Having us.
The Akoma, peace.
All right. Peace.